Some podcasts that I do are kind of epic podcasts. Okay. And this is one such podcast. And today I had the opportunity to talk with Mr. Kenzie Dodds. He is one of the greatest personalities in this particular tech industry. He is the founder of Epic React.dev, testingjavascript.com, and also he's the one who has Epic Web Conference every time in Utah. In this particular podcast, I had a chance to talk with him about his life, about his journey from being a software engineer at PayPal now to converting into a full time educator on YouTube and at Epic React. And in this video, we particularly talked about how can a person start his open source journey with the current situation, like when a developer gets very intimidated to start with open source. We talked about how can a person start their journey about development, and Kent shared his journey about how he started from PayPal now to an educator. What are the challenges that he faced? What are the lessons that he learned? And also a piece of advice that he would like to give to all of you guys. And honestly, what I would like to say is I had been looking up for this podcast from the time I met him at React India, because that's when I thought, or that's when I had this thing in mind that no, I need to learn a lot from this guy. And I'm fortunate enough to have him over an episode on the Coding Adda podcast for you guys. This is Mr. Kenzie Dots. Kenzie Dots, welcome to the Coding Adda podcast. It's like an honor to have you here. And it's kind of a dream for me that has been come true, because just after React India, I got to know about all of you guys, and I was like, I need to talk with you. And thank you so much for taking out your time to just spend an hour and just have a talk on this video. So, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm looking forward to our chat.
So, many of the people or many of the students who are in their college years, or who are not that in experienced in tech, or who are just starting out in tech, who don't know about you, can you just give a short introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure there are lots of people who don't know about me. I am Kent C. Dodds. I live in Utah in the United States with my wife and 5 children, and I am a web developer and educator. I help people build excellent user experiences on the web.
Okay. So, yeah, like your journey went from being a software engineer now to a full-time educator, right?
Yep. I was well. So I started. I graduated with a degree in information systems back in 2014. And then I, right out of school, started working full time as an engineer, primarily doing JavaScript related stuff, mostly front end. Ended up at PayPal where I went more full stack, and then from PayPal, I decided to go full time teacher. So I'd been teaching on the side, and that went well enough that I could do it full time. So I've been doing that since 2019. I took a little break to help get Remix started. But yeah, I've been full time mostly on teaching.
Okay, so like your journey from being a full-time software engineer at PayPal now to be becoming a full-time educator. So can you tell me like what has been the inspiration? Because when you're full-time, you're like you have a fixed kind of salary that you get. But when you become an educator, or specifically on a platform like YouTube, it's like there is no fixed money that you get. Or in terms of other things as well, there is, you have a safe zone, like when you get a time with your family. But when you're starting out something new as a full-time educator, things turned out to be not to be the way you expect. So what's your inspiration behind that?
Yeah, so it is tricky when you have a nice, comfortable job with a salary, and here in the United States, they take care of your health insurance and stuff as well, and so going out on your own, you have to kind of handle all of that stuff yourself. And like you said, education is at least, or just really being on your own at all, is typically less certain as far as what your pay is month to month. So some months can be really good, some cannot, and so the trick for me is because I'm a pretty risk averse person. I don't want to take a lot of risk when I've got all of my family and everything. So um, I try to reduce the amount of risk a lot. And so before I went full time as an educator, I actually had been doing education on the side, like I said, and I didn't actually quit PayPal until I was making more money doing the education stuff on the side than I was making from PayPal. And that helped a lot with me feeling confident that I could do this. So it was a lot less of a leap of faith and a lot more of a obvious next step sort of thing for me.
Okay, okay. So, like, what are, can you just share some of your key moments that have been like shaping your career till now? Like, from an educator point of view as well, and from an engineer point of view as well.
Yeah. I think the like when I was a teenager, I was not into programming. I did a little bit of HTML and CSS. I had a blog that I wrote about. I was very interested in what Google was doing. I just thought it was really cool stuff, and so I had a blog about what Google was up to, and and then I had a friend who was really into programming, and he helped me learn a little bit, but I didn't quite understand what this programming thing was all about. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll get into video editing because I really liked being on the computer. Yeah, programming it was just not my thing. So I did end up making a bunch of videos, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I like fast forward to the future, and I end up taking some programming classes because I was convinced by my brother that I should be an electrical engineer, and I didn't. I did okay in the programming classes, but I did not enjoy them at all. I thought it was really dull work and not very practical. Um, and so then I went on a mission for my church for 2 years. And when I got back, I was going to get back into the program, but I took a math course. And in the engineering program, you really have to be good at math. And I was just not. I was very bad at math. And I thought, if like maybe I should not do something that requires you to be so good at this skill. And so I bounced around a little bit, found my way to information systems. And at the same time that I got into that program, I had a job that was it was a computer job. I was kind of helping with some SEO related stuff, and I was uploading videos to YouTube and things. And there was just a lot of monotony in my work. And it was really boring. And so I wrote a program to help me with that work. And that was when things started to switch for me. That was a pretty impactful moment for me when I realized that programming wasn't just about linked lists and writing your own compiler and whatever, but it was actually a lot more interesting. It was very practical. And so that was a really impactful moment for me. It took me a while before I decided, okay, I actually do want to be a programmer. Actually, it was not until JavaScript I started working in JavaScript. That's when I was like, oh, I actually really do enjoy this. Before it was I'd been writing in Java and even had a class where we wrote machine code and assembly and C, and that was like I would not want to do that now. But yeah, when I started writing JavaScript, then I started get really feeling like I wanted to be a programmer. But it wasn't until I really knew that programming was a practical thing that had like real world application. So that's one really big moment for me. And then like a couple others, I realized pretty early on that that teaching other people was a really great way for me to learn how to do something very well. In fact, my first programming classes that I said I thought were kind of dull, I actually did pretty well in those classes because I volunteered to be a tutor. And so our teacher had this website and they said, you can volunteer to be a tutor, put yourself on this list, and then people will reach out to you if they need help. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll volunteer to be a tutor. And so I helped a couple of people, answered questions and things. This wasn't a paid position or anything. It was just like a volunteer thing. But because I did that, I was forced into learning the material really well. I had to get my homework done before everybody else. That way I could help them with their homework. And so this like key insight has followed me my entire career. The teaching people how to do things is actually just a trick to get me to learn it very well. And so I really, yeah, that has been really helpful for me over all of the years that I've been developing software. Is if I want to learn something very well, then I'm going to put myself in a position where I need to teach people, and that has helped a lot.
Okay, like I also like personally, I have also been teaching students over here. Like before joining full time at Synopsys, I had been teaching at classes back in Mumbai, and it was like a 1 month classes like where I had to teach the entire mon stack starting from JavaScript. So earlier I was a bit scared, like I had not talked like in an offline classes and stuff, but it was like a beautiful experience. Like when you try to teach students on the fundamentals of programming, and when it becomes so not proper educative, but sometimes a bit of entertainment combined with education. So that is when everyone likes to work, as you as a teacher as well, and the students as well. So that's a very good thing that you have been doing. So are there any challenges that you have faced when you like transitioned from the software engineer role then into a content creator role, like content educator role full time?
Yeah, that was honestly, I was really kind of nervous about that because as an educator on the side, I was able to take the things that I was learning on my full time job and apply them and like just teach those things and say, hey, this is a thing I literally did in a production application that has millions of users. So like, there's a certain amount of authority that I can speak to by having that like experience that's so recent. I can share something and somebody says, well, does this actually work? And I said, well, I don't know. Ask the millions of users who use the thing. I literally did this. And so going as a full-time educator, I don't really have millions of users. I don't work on a team of developers. And so, but I'm expected to teach people who are in that sort of environment. And so that was something that I was really nervous about in going full-time educator. And for sure, there are things that like there are a lot of things that I still remember about what it was like to work in that environment. But it has been like 6 years since I left the PayPal, and so um, it like some of that knowledge is dated. Like in fact, we had never shipped React hooks to production before I left because they were still experimental when I left. Yeah, so that's how long ago we're talking. And so it is like some of the experience, like the hands-on experience that I had, is now quite dated. But I make up for that by overscoping my personal projects. And so my personal website is much more than a developer portfolio. It's distributed in multiple regions all over the world. There are user accounts, and there's a couple of apps in there that I'm kind of thinking about turning into SaaS products. So I just put a lot, like one example is the Call Kent podcast, where you can record a question in the browser. I save it to the database, and then I listen to your question, I respond, and then that gets put together and turns into a podcast episode on the podcast. I've got over 250 season or episodes on that or something like that. And so it's, yeah, it's like a significant thing, and eventually maybe I'll turn that into a product. But by overscoping things, and it's not just the website, but also the workshop app that people go through when they're going through my workshops is also a pretty complicated piece of software. And so by building these things, I can make sure that I am properly evaluating the technology choices that I'm making. I do have hundreds of thousands of users. I don't have millions of users probably, but I have hundreds of thousands of people who are using my software. The blog is it's a content heavy site, so like it's pretty different from what a lot of people are building. But the Epic Workshop app is a very app-like experience, which is very similar to what a lot of people are doing. And so I do force myself into these situations where I am making up for that lost experience that I have by not being a full-time engineer. And then outside of that, honestly, that was my biggest fear. I knew that I could make this work as an educator. Like I'm pretty good at it. People tell me that. They actually pay for my courses and get promotions and get jobs and stuff. And so I know that the material is good. And so I feel pretty confident in my abilities there. So I just keep on working and staying on top of things.
Okay, so like honestly, I'll tell you, talking with you on like just questions, it's does not even seem like a podcast to me. It's just like a big brother teaching a younger brother about how to do things, and it's kind of it's actually getting me motivated to build something on my own.
Hmm.
So thank you,
That's
really thank
good.
you so much for that. So let's talk about Epic React .dev and testing JavaScript.com because that's something that you have built. So what did you see as a gap in this particular industry when you thought of creating these kind of resources?
Yeah, when I built testingjavascript.com, I was actually working at PayPal still. And so I was doing that on the side. And the biggest gap with testing in React was that the tool at the time was Enzyme, and it had a lot of really bad testing practices. And I only knew that because I had been testing for a while and I'd kind of developed the way that I think about testing. I never read any books about testing or anything like that. I'm not a very academic type person. I was just very practical, and I did this and it worked, or I did that and it did not work, and I had a lot of trouble with it. And so I just saw that the prevailing attitude toward testing React was one just full of pain, and it was not fun at all. But I did want to teach people how to do things, and so I was teaching them to use Enzyme because that's the way we do things. And the more and more I did that, the more I found there were so many problems with it. So eventually, I had a workshop that I was going to be giving at a company, and in preparing for that, I was about to make a big document that explained, here are all the things you don't do with Enzyme. Like, I know that the GitHub comments, they're gonna and the documentation, everything, they're gonna tell you you use these things. This is how you test React. That is not how you do it. That you're gonna use Enzyme this way, and you'll be much better off. And then I realized, actually, I wonder if I could just make my own little library that is a mini version of Enzyme so that I can show people how Enzyme works. And I realized that mini version of Enzyme was actually a lot better than Enzyme because it didn't allow you to do a lot of the things that Enzyme allows you to do. And so I built that into what became testing library. And now testing library is the de facto standard for testing all UI, not just React, but it's built into Playwright. vtest is building a testing library into itself. Each one of these are re-implementing it, but the queries are all there. The get by role and all of those. And so it at the time, of course, there was no educational material. So as far as gaps are concerned, that was the gap. Nobody had material on testing UIs the way that testing library does. But then testing library is more than just testing React. It also touches a lot on how to configure the tools and how the tools work. And for those, there are lots of resources on stuff. And so the thing I want to get to is just that there doesn't have to be a gap for you to feel like you can contribute in the education space because you kind of have a different take on things. You can connect with people in a different way from others. There are other educators who also teach about testing and about React, and they also have a bunch of students, and they connect with their students very well. I personally feel like the way that I teach now, this is, now it's been 6 years since then, but the way that I teach now is a very, really, really rigorous, great way for people to learn. I'm not going to say it's the best because everybody's learning experience is different, but it is definitely research-based and experience-based as well. And so if you want to teach something that like you have some experience with a particular topic, then just go for it, even if there are already a bunch of other materials out there.
Okay, okay. So like talking about testing part, like many developers still back in India struggle with testing, and there are a lot of myths around testing, and there are a lot of misconceptions. Like if you want to start testing, you must know about the manual testing, then you must know about automation testing, and you must know about certain libraries which come under the testing part. So what do you think are some is a big misconception according to you?
I've actually written blog posts about mistakes that people make with testing, like common mistakes that I see. And there are some pretty like specific ones, but I think probably the biggest one is that people often see testing as a like special type of software, like that's somehow different from all the other software code that we write, and that's not the case. Testing is um, if we take a step back and think about what is software, it really is just there to automate things that are either too slow or impractical for a person to do themselves. And so, like, what is the thing that we're automating when we're talking about testing? That is going to be the ensuring that your software is good, like that it does what it's intended to do, satisfies its intended purpose. And so, when we're like there are a couple of ways that you can do that. You can actually pull up the software and click around and do the thing, kind of try to do what you hope your users are going to do, and make sure that those experiences are good. Um, and then you can go all the way to the other end where you make the computer do it. Because the problem with just doing it manually is every time you make a change, you might have broken that experience, and so you got to go through and check again, and it's just too slow. And so the same thing, like with any other software, the thing that we're trying to do is make things happen faster, make it easier, whatever. It's the same thing with testing. You're just trying to automate this process of validating that um, the thing that you're building actually accomplishes its purpose. And so when you frame things in that way, that testing is just another piece of the software, it's a feature of your app, then I think it makes it a little less scary for people, and hopefully contextualizes the tools that we're using as well. And I think like really the purpose of a test is just to let people know, hey, something is wrong. Like the expectation that you had is not the experience that I had when I was going through this. So you might want to look at that. So yeah, just kind of understand, like contextualize what testing software is all about.
Okay, okay. So I think I see that you are heavily invested in open source and heavily involved in open source contributions. Like before just writing down the questions, I had just gone through all of your social media from X to YouTube to your personal portfolio, then to Git, and on Git also, like you are heavily involved in open source. So I just wanted to understand what drives your passion for contributing, and how do you balance with the other commitments?
Yeah, it's kind of easy for me because I don't work at a big company anymore where our code is private. So every bit of code that I write is open source, and so um, and like the reason for that is because it's logistically easier for me to make it open source. It also makes it so that other contributors can come in and help with different aspects of things. It gives more eyeballs on the things that I'm building, and they can give me ideas and different things like that. And I also live stream most of the work that I do anyway, and so they're gonna see it one way or another anyway. Um, and so, like, there are a lot of reasons that just being open source by default makes a lot of sense for what I do. Um, and as far as like what drives me giving back, it's uh, like there's the altruistic aspect of it is like, yeah, I've gotten a lot out of open source, and so I'm going to give back, and that just feels good to kind of participate in this really magical thing that we have that's open source. But then also there's the selfish side of it too, where when I like if I make this thing into a library that people can npm install and use, then so can I. I can go and npm install and use it, and it's a lot easier for me to do that. And again, like people can contribute to it and make it better, and so it's going to be. And then on top of that, if I'm going to open source this library, I'm going to probably think about the API a little bit better and document it, and so it'll be easier for me to use as well. So and then of course, like now an LLM can train a model on that, and now it'll be able to help me use my own thing. So there's, yeah, a lot of things that go into, like, both selfishly and altruistically, that go into why participating in open source is a good thing.
Okay, okay. So like talking about the developers, like from after the era of the ChatGPT and LLMs coming into picture, many of the developers and many of the students or the college grads that I see, they feel very intimidated when they are trying to contribute to open source. So, what is your advice to those developers? Because what happens is there are a lot of things that are open source right now. And as a developer, if we talk in terms of a developer's point of view, a developer is very overwhelmed to contribute on which domain. Like it has app to web to any testing libraries to any piece of, let's say, SaaS or any other product. So, what is your piece of advice to those developers who are just starting out with an open source, but they feel very intimidated?
Yeah, well, so I would say first that it's perfectly normal to feel intimidated. You're not a bad developer or anything because you're like feeling nervous about this. The other thing is like there's actually like pretty good reason to feel kind of intimidated because not everybody in open source is going to be nice or patient or anything, but I would say that most people are, and you can eventually find those communities that are going to be supportive and helpful in your journey and getting into it. The As far as like what open source contributions can you start with, I would actually look at your dependency list. So look at your package.json and see what libraries you're already using. There are probably some of those that you don't like quite understand. Maybe the documentation is unclear, or you don't particularly like the API, or something like something's a little awkward for you. Um, and then you can go into the issues for those projects and see if maybe you can help with some of those issues. So, like, you don't even have to get into code contributions. You can just start helping in that community. And then eventually, like, maybe there will be an opportunity to contribute some code. And on top of that, one really, really great thing that you can do that, like, nobody does this, but they should, and it's such a low effort, high impact thing that you can do. And that is to document the public API from a code perspective. So lots of projects will have documentation on, like, in a README or something, but so many lack documentation in the code with the JS doc. And so when you've got your autocomplete thing that pops up, it'll tell you what the different types of the inputs of this function are, but it doesn't explain what the function does or what it's for or give examples or anything like that. And so you just add JS doc comments to the code or to the types, and now people have a much, much better experience in their editor, and that, like, affects just about everybody. And so that's what I would suggest for people, is to, like, that's a really, really low effort, high impact thing that you can do, is documentation. And the more time you spend in a particular project, the more familiar you get with the code, and the easier it is to start contributing. And like I said, most developers or open source project maintainers are going to be helpful, and they're going to be excited to have you contribute to their project.
So, what are your thoughts on AI? Like specifically, quoting it, AI is taking your job, because that's what people were telling from the last 3 years. But I don't think AI is not very near to taking the jobs. But yeah, taking the jobs of the front end developers, because Bolt, v0.dev, and many new things have come up. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, if you were a developer who built throwaway apps before, you're not going to be able to do that anymore because V0 and Bolt are really good at building throwaway apps. I don't know anybody who's actually started with V0 or Bolt and made anything substantial in the industry. They probably exist somewhere, but um, once you get outside of Bolt or V0, now you have like an actual app you need to maintain and stuff, and you're going to need developers who can do that. I'm not too concerned. I do not expect that AI is going to be taking away the jobs of developers. I do think that it is a highly productive tool that developers should learn how to use. And it is a skill that you need to develop. Like it's a new skill that we need to learn. But I'm not concerned myself that we're going to be losing our jobs to AI anytime soon.
Okay, okay. So, like, what would you say? Like, if there's an interview question that is asked to you, what does a day in a life of Kenshi Dodds look like?
Well, typically I'll wake up at around 6:45 and I'll roll out of bed and go get my kids up, wake them up. Four of my kids go to school. My youngest is too young. And so I go wake them up. Some of them I wake up a couple of times to get them moving. And then we are out the door by 7:30. I drop them off at school, and then I come back home. I work out for a bit and get ready for the day, and then on my favorite days, I'll just come and turn on the camera and start live streaming, and I'll just stream the whole day. Some days I have to do like stuff with email, and there's stuff going on, just like logistics of living your life, which really annoys me. I'd rather just like spend all my time working on stuff. And then of course I will take lunch. I work from home, and so I've got my wife and my baby here that will hang out. And then actually in the afternoon, one of my kids is in gymnastics. He's there for like 2.5 hours, 4 days a week. And so I take him over there and I'll work there just on my laptop, waiting for him to finish and then bring him home. We have dinner and I hang out with the family and then put the kids to bed, clean up the house, and then start it over again the next day. That's the day in the life. Now, like the particulars of what I'm working on and stuff we can get into, but yeah, that's the basic structure.
Okay, okay. So, like, I really want to talk about Epic Web Conference because that's the boom thing that is like, that's the thing that is in talks right now. And I particularly know about the Epic Web Conference, and I wished I could attend that, but it's very far. Like me being from India and that being very far away, maybe sometime soon. But can you please tell about Epic Web Conference?
Yeah, sure. It's actually literally tomorrow. Is yeah, the first day of the conference. That's the workshop day, and there are a couple other really fun and exciting things happening as well. And so yeah, this is it's coming. It's happening. And the idea of Epic WebConf was actually it's something that I've thought about for a long time. But then I went to work at Remix for a while. And as soon as I joined up with Remix, I said, okay, we've got to have a conference. We got to get the community together, give people a reason to like prepare talks and demos and ideas and stuff, and share those ideas with each other, bring people together. And so we had Remix Conf year one, and I think that was 2022. And that was in Salt Lake City. That went great. It was awesome. We had over 300 people there for the first conference. We just open sourced Remix like 6 months earlier, and so I was felt really happy with that. And then year two, we actually scheduled that. We announced it at the conference, and then soon after the conference, Remix was actually acquired by Shopify. And so that was very exciting. I did not go with them. I felt like I'd done what I came to do, and so I went back to being full-time educator. But they asked me to come on and run RemixConf year two since we'd announced it and everything, and they wanted my help. So I ran year two again. And then they decided they didn't want to continue with RemixConf. They had other priorities they were focused on. Um, and so I decided I still wanted to run a conference, and I thought, okay, well, now's the time where I can run my own. And so that was Epic WebConf last year. Um, and then again, I'm running Epic WebConf year two, starting tomorrow. And so the idea behind Epic WebConf is just I've got a some ideas around how I like to develop web applications. And there are a lot of people who share those ideas and those sensibilities. So I want to bring them together to like just bring the community together to help inspire each other and give each other ideas. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of the idea. There's extended breaks. We have plenty of time for people to talk and meet each other and things, and lots of talks as well for people to learn from. High quality speakers, people that you know very well in the industry, as well as those that you might not as know yet. And we're going to be doing quite a bit around developing with AI, like using AI tools and developing AI, like building AI related software, as well as like lots of your standard, we're building web apps and like here's practical things that you can use in your work. So, and then we have, of course, like opportunities to get to know each other in activities and things. And actually, the day after the conference, we're doing an unofficial ski day because we're in Utah and we have like I'm literally looking at beautiful snow-capped mountains right now. And so yeah, it's just trying to get the community together as much as we can.
Okay. So I really want everyone, if anyone who's watching from Utah or nearby, please go and check out and be a part of the Epic Web Conference, because that's where you'll get to see Kenzie Dodds, and I think Shruti Kapoor is also attending this year, right?
Yep, she'll be speaking as well.
So you'll get to talk with them, and it's like a, you can say once in a lifetime opportunity where you can talk with these kind of people. Because honestly, before just shooting the podcast, I was just telling Kent like uh, I had just met Kent at React India, and that's where I literally didn't know what the community is. I was like, bro, I think myself as a developer, but I don't know anything about the tech community that is existing over here. And I didn't particularly know about these names like Kenzie Doll, Shruti Kapoor, Tejas Kumar, and everyone. But once I got to know, I was like, bro, these are like crazy people. You should definitely meet them and at least have small talk with them so that you'll understand where you actually stand and what's the community doing.
Hmm.
So, like, I just have a last question. Like, what is the piece of advice that you would like to give to everyone watching this video?
The my favorite piece of advice is to remember that you could be the best developer in the world, and if you're not a nice person, then people won't want to work with you, and you won't be able to accomplish the potential that you have. So I recommend be a nice person.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kansi Dodds, for hopping up for a lovely podcast. It's an honor. It's an honor to have you on the Coding Adda podcast. And I think this is one of the uh, biggest goals that I have achieved, to just have you and just to have a short conversation with you and learning about your journey as a developer to an educator is like an inspiration to all the creators or all the early stage developers like me. And I hope everyone watching this particular video would learn something or the other. And I particularly learned a lot. And yeah, if you guys are near the Epic Web Conference, do check it out. And yeah, this was it for the video. If you like the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'll surely mention Kenzie Dodds YouTube and Twitter account in the handle. Please make sure to connect with him, trouble him as much as you want. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.